Thank you very much. My name is Bruce Rosner, and I'm the founder and president of GreenLifeTech. Today I want to discuss a problem with the screen to begin with, evidently. Not sure what's happening here. But anyway, one of the problems we're all confronted with, and probably not aware of the entire situation or how big it is waste of food, our fresh produce, fruits and vegetables. We waste over $240 billion a year, that's right, it's billion dollars a year, in the U.S. alone. This represents about 40% of all the food that's grown in the United States is wasted. It's never consumed. And out of that, about 145 billion is in the household itself. So you probably know from yourself how much you throw out every week. It represents about $1,800 per year for the average household, about $1 per person. Also, just getting it to your home, there's $45 billion lost in the farm distribution and the grocery and retail. Now, not only is this a major issue associated with the direct costs, losing this, wasting this food, but it's also an environmental issue. If you look at the amount of food that's wasted and so on, it represents 35% of all the agricultural water, land, and fertilizer use. So it's 35%, a third's just thrown out. You're using it to grow food that's never consumed. Also in the landfill, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but we put into the landfill every day 150,000 tons of wastage from fruits and vegetables. That's every day. So, and the third item here is the health. Obviously, people buy less fresh produce because it's wasted and so on. So if you conserve that food, extend its lifetime, you'll have a healthier, happier life. Although our technology is applicable across the entire food chain, we are focused initially with what we call Fresh Defend. It's a product that sits on your shelf in your household. We recycle the air in that container, take out the oxygen, and thereby extending the life of the product by 500%. So it's easy to operate, simple. Just open the front cover, put your items inside, close it, and it automatically cycles, takes the oxygen out, and so on. Not only that, but we're offering an option on this for separate containers and wine bottles. In other words, if you have partially consumed wine, you can do the same thing with a snap-on connectors here, remove the oxygen, and thereby extend the life of the produce on the pourable containers or in the wine bottle itself. And we have a targeted price of $200 for this item. You might think that's a lot, but in reality, you have a return on investment in just a matter of a couple months. This is just a very quick representation of how we can of our actual samples that we've done here. You can see on the right side items that are extended out 40, 50 days or longer by using this technology of just removing the oxygen. Here's a timeline. I came up with the concept in 2019. Last year, we actually did a prototype, proof of concept. We raised our initial seed financing, and we engaged with partners, Inventus Partners, if you're familiar with them here in Charlotte. I'll talk more about them a little later. And now we're in the midst of a crowdfunding. The reason I'm here today, we just did our launching last week, and we're about 90% of the way there, so we're very excited about that. This money will be used to do our pilot program, our actual proof, not our proof of concept, excuse me, but the prototype, and then the pre-production release. So we will be raising money again next year, early next year, to cover the production costs and so on. By 2023, we expect to be expanding the product across other areas in the food chain and beyond. And a major part of that also be, we intend to license into the refrigerator area. Here's a quick comparison. In reality, we have no direct competitors. The closest thing to our product is a chemical coating that's, as the name implies, the coating is applied on the fruits and vegetables. And obviously, I think you understand the first problem there. It's costly, it's difficult to achieve, and secondly, it's a chemical. I want to point out right from the onset, we're not a refrigeration unit, or we don't compete with refrigeration. We work in conjunction with refrigeration and so on. So that's a very important point here, because if you're putting something in the refrigerator and you're getting 3 or 4 days out of it, now you can extend that to up to 500%. One of the most important aspects of any company, I've learned this the hard way, I started, this is my 4th company, is you have to have a very good team. that works well together and covers all the bases. So I won't go into all the details here, but we have a very experienced background with people who have expertise across the entire line. Last slide here, I just want to show where our projections are in terms of our financial projections, a summary that we plan to start producing in 2022, and we will be profitable by the end of 2023, and you can see growth from there. Our primary growth is obviously in the sale of our product, but also we intend to have royalties from OEMs, refrigerator OEMs, starting in late 23 and into 24. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks for that. So I'll just go really deep because I feel like the last comment was super high level. The funny thing about your first slide being all weird is it proves a very simple point. There's too many words on these slides for a visual presentation like this. So that's just, if you're sending someone this over email, maybe that works, but just in terms of taking content down, you could easily cut that content in half and still get your points across. So very tactical slide development, like you just got to kill the word count. That will help, I think, make the tighter point up front, which is waste is a problem. You could probably, again, take your data, the verbal delivery of data down by half. 40% of fresh fruits and vegetables go to the landfill. Like, boom, I got it. I think the value prop that you could lead with is waste reduction and health. And we're complementary to that problem versus trying to disintermediate a massively entrenched industry called refrigeration or whatever. So I think, again, like take what you have and really just try to cut the volume of the content in half and then get super tight on how you verbally deliver it. Again, you might never do a 5-minute or 10-minute pitch again, but for the sake of you and the audience, that's kind of my high level on that. I do like the household savings concept. Like when you start to throw MSRP $200, I think you do have to qualify it with return on investment. So I like that a lot. You could have probably, moved that up or just been, nailed that. And I also think the complementary kind of relationship with Inventus. I do know Inventus. I've known those guys for a long time since I got here and Louis started building the company. Like that's a differentiator. Like that de-risks your ask, whatever the ask is, if it's for funding or for crowdfunding. So I think I'd actually get more precise on that versus kind of bury them in the in the team slide. You know what I mean? Like here's Inventus, here's what they do. Here's 2 or 3 other brands or products they've taken to market that have sold hundreds of millions of dollars of or whatever, whatever the pitch is. Yeah.
I agree with you. Inventus is a very firm part of our company.
Yeah.
In that, I think for those of you who don't know Inventus, they've brought 1,300 products to market in the last 20 years.
Yeah. So boom. There you go. You just said it.
Yeah.
You just nailed it. And then the one I will say this in terms of slide, engineering and visual presentation. The one thing you can do, I think, this is my view, you can throw all the numbers up and let the numbers hang because the numbers, weirdly, if the audience, the viewer, isn't digging in on them visually and intellectually, at least it kind of creates this kind of like this guy's done some work on the numbers side of it. And so that's a good hook to have because now I know if I want to follow up with you, we can actually have a real conversation on the P&L, right? Oh, you want to sell 4,726 units. That's cool. Let's talk about that, right? So I think that is the one thing you can overweight on, but the rest of your slides, I would just say go back and, I don't know, cut them in half. Just start there.
Okay.
Almost like rewrite the term paper with the conclusion. I don't know. I used to do that in undergrad. It's like just go back and test your hypothesis when you're at the end of it. I think you've got a tight pitch and thesis. I just think you can thin it out a bit just to make it much crisper.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
By the way, next week I have to give a 3-minute presentation.
Oh, good luck. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's a zinger. That's got me thinking. Yeah, Mark stole all my good stuff.
Oh, come on.
I have one question for you. Have you built this thing and it works?
I built a benchtop unit, and yes, it works.
Okay.
The results you saw there were actual art tests.
One of your timelines was prototype, but prototype is more the prototype of what the mass-produced product is going to be.
That's correct.
But you built this, like this, because this is an invention, like.
That's absolutely correct. I've built it on the benchtop. It works. And actually, it's kind of interesting. When I first started doing this, I found I was reinventing the wheel to a certain extent. If you go to USDA Handbook 66, and I'm sure you all read that, you'll find it's an 800-page document that goes through all the different vegetables and fruits, obviously hundreds of them, and talks about refrigeration and removing oxygen and how it extends life, or lack of, not necessarily refrigeration, but just removing the oxygen. So it's well-known fact. And I can tell you right now, just if you want to go out and buy a tank of nitrogen or argon and build up containers that are, tight, and press the nitrogen through there, forcing the oxygen out, it works great, not a problem. It's very inconvenient.
I'm not going to do that. But I am very interested in this. Like, I mean, you caught me, despite all the jumble of words or whatever. You caught me. I'm one of those guys that's like very aware of how much we throw away, and it bugs me. It's my wife and I fight about it because she's just like, a banana can only last this long. I'm like, it's fine. It can last another 6 days. It's and I always want to challenge that. It's like
we have the same debate
cheapskate or something.
Yeah,
but yeah, you've got a great point and a great to just catch people's attention right off the bat. Yeah, I think in addition to you had too many words up there, you used too many words too. You're like, you had me, bam. Like, just do the household. Just like you're throwing all this food away. Wouldn't you like to save that? Yes, it's good for the environment and it's good for your health ultimately or whatever. But those, you just punch me right with that. And then especially in the 5 minutes, and it's a way to get some time to go into detail about. I totally agree with Mark. I was getting all ready to be like, okay, you got this invention. Do you know anything about bringing it to market or whatever? But you were like, bam, like invent it, like they do, and and you're
Exactly.
partnered with them. So that's buttoned up. It's if you could,
Yeah, we feel very
1,300
fortunate to be
products in
working
the
with
last
them.
whatever you said, like, okay, great. That's like a check mark in my mind. Like moving forward.
I should also mention, Inventus, and they've allowed me to say this, they're taking part of their fees in equity, which they hardly ever do.
That's another great point.
I'd like to make that now.
It's just like by confidence by proxy. It's because I'm going to be honest with you. It's like you come off like a scientist, an inventor, and
I wonder
and
why.
so the investor in me is like, yeah, okay, like can you get to the next step? And by backing with Inventus. And then I didn't look too deeply into your advisors, but I assume that you've got some advisors in there that are more than just scientists about the product and how do we get this out? How do we get this out?
Absolutely. A number of the team members on here, and one wasn't identified. He's the president of a company that are in a somewhat delicate situation right now. But we've done worldwide product development, bringing it to market, and selling it worldwide. So I've got that background. And I've talked to a couple gentlemen this morning about this. It's so critical because you're right. I am technical in background and so on. But I've been involved in the whole spectrum. But I'm not a marketing and salesperson, but I have great people that have joined the company that are doing that.
Yep, I love it. I love that statement.
Yeah, like that, I think we just rewrote the pitch a little bit, which is like lead with the waste problem, complement, I think, with the health kicker here. People want to get more high nutrient value, nutrient dense foods in their diets. They're spending money on it, right? Whatever data helps you, or just to say it, we all get it, right? Organic vegetables and fruits are healthier. And then I would just say, like, I've invented something. It's not super high tech. Good news, actually. I think it's interesting, right? You can use nitrogen to displace oxygen in a contained environment. Like, okay, click, next. We're going to market with something or somebody called Inventus. Here's what they've done. Like, that's 2 minutes of your 3-minute pitch.
Yep.
Not to oversimplify it, but I mean, I'm kind of trying to make the point, which is that's a much easier conversation to have than where you started, which is lots of content. Now my brain's got to say, like, okay, what are you? Like, and when I read the description of the company, because we're also looking at cold chain kind of future of food issues here, because I do work in that space, I was wondering like where you were in the chain. Like, oh, you're on the countertop, you're in the household. Okay, cool. Like, bring that up, get super tight on it, and just keep going, right? Like, just get to the end of that 3 to 5 minutes, because
if you're not getting through those points quickly, you're going to get caught up on your natural tendency to be detail-oriented because you're PhD and that's what
I've
you do.
noticed that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, stating the obvious, but anyway, it's all good.
I think it's interesting also, you focused on the health and the environment. Engineer, I save money. So
Yeah.
my top priority, and then we got into this with the marketing people and so on, and we actually went out and did market studies and so on. We found out it was actually about a split, third. Cost savings, environment, health.
Yeah, I lead with cost save. I think waste is cost save for me. Yeah, when I say waste, that's cost save. And then environment or health, you're probably right, is 50-50. I don't know. But yeah, use the data to direct how you position a product. And the guys at Inventus will figure that out too with you. I mean, they have
Oh,
an idea.
yeah, they've been very helpful,
Yeah,
let me tell you.
cool.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
I think we have time for one quick question.
I know.
I didn't hear a lot on protectability.
Glad you asked. We have 2 international patents pending at the present time because, again, as I mentioned, we can't patent the fact that I'm taking the oxygen, or I'm replacing the environment, the gas environment, with inert gases. So the way we do the system, it's economical, efficient, and so on. And it's kind of interesting. I can spend more time with it afterwards explaining what we do there, but it's, like I say, it has to be very efficient to do that. Yeah.
Is there a supply cost? Like an expense ongoing?
No, good news. I didn't get a chance to say that either. There's no chemicals used here. It is ongoing. There's no replacement cost, cartridges, or anything like that.
Awesome. If you got more questions, you can stick around afterwards and be able to answer those questions. But for now, Bruce, thank you so much.
Thank you.